The message came at dawn. It was not a long message. It did not need to be. It was sent from the Galactic Council, the oldest and most powerful group of species in the known universe. It said only this: the human delegation will appear before the full council in 3 rotations. Failure to appear will be treated as an act of war. Ambassador Lena Vasquez read the message 3 times. She was sitting in her small office on the human station above the planet Veritas 4, drinking cold coffee and watching the stars outside her window. She did not look afraid. She looked tired. She had been in this job for 9 years. 9 years of talks, meetings, long silences, and careful words. 9 years of sitting across from creatures who did not look like her, did not think like her, and did not care about the things she cared about. She had learned their languages, their customs, their ways of showing respect and disrespect. She had done everything right. And yet, here was this message. She put the coffee down and pressed a button on her desk. "Get me Commander Riku and Director Chen," she said. "Tell them it is urgent." 20 minutes later, the 3 of them were standing around the main table in the station's meeting room. Commander Hiro Riku was a tall man with short gray hair and a soldier's straight back. Director Mei Chen was shorter, rounder, and always seemed to be thinking about 3 things at once. Lena trusted both of them with her life. "They finally did it," Riku said, reading the message on the screen. He did not sound surprised. "What does the council actually want?" Chen asked. She was already pulling up files on her tablet. "They want us to agree to the Zyrath trade borders," Lena said. "They've been pushing us for 2 years. They want to lock humans out of the outer spiral routes. They say it is for galactic stability. What it really means is that every human cargo ship will have to pay fees to Zyrath stations. It would cripple independent traders." Riku sat down slowly. "And if we say no?" "Last time we said no, they delayed our medical supply routes for 6 months, Lena said. 40,000 people on colony worlds ran out of basic medicines. We said no again, and they blocked our application to join the Inner Commerce Ring. We have been saying no for 2 years. Now they are done being patient." There was a long silence in the room. Chen put her tablet down. "We should go. We have to go. We cannot fight the full council." "I know," Lena said. "We will go, but we are not going to agree to their terms." Riku looked at her carefully. "Then what exactly are we going to do?" Lena did not answer right away. She walked to the window and looked out at the dark space beyond the glass. The stars were everywhere, cold and far away. She thought about the colony worlds. She thought about the traders and the families and the children who had gone without medicine. She thought about 9 years of careful words and what they had bought. "I've been doing this the polite way," she said quietly. "I've been respectful. I've been reasonable. I've followed every rule of galactic diplomacy. And every time I do, they push harder." She turned around. "So I think it is time to stop doing this the polite way." Riku and Chen exchanged a look. "What does that mean?" Chen asked. "It means we go to that council meeting," Lena said, "and we end this, once and for all." She did not explain further. She walked out of the room and went back to her office, and she stayed there for the rest of the night, reading files and writing notes, and not sleeping at all. The journey to the council chamber took 2 days by fast ship. The council chamber was a massive structure that floated in neutral space, exactly equidistant from the 12 founding member worlds. It was shaped like a great ring, slowly turning, always turning, and it caught the light of a distant star and glowed like a bronze crown. Lena had been there 4 times before. Each time, she had walked through those doors feeling small. The council species were old. Some of them had been traveling the stars before humans had learned to write. The Zyrath had 17 words for patience. The Varathi communicated through color and had no word for hurry. The great solemn ones did not speak at all and expressed their will through the vibrations of their enormous bodies. Lena had always tried to meet them where they were. She had studied their histories, their philosophies, their long, slow thoughts. She had tried to be worthy of the table she sat at. But sitting in the back of the small ship as it moved through space, She thought about what worthy had gotten her. It had gotten her a message that said, "Come, or we will declare war." Riku sat across from her, cleaning his jacket buttons. He was always doing something with his hands when he was thinking. "You could tell me the plan," he said. "There is no plan yet," Lena said. "There is just a decision." "What decision?" "To stop pretending," she said. "They are not negotiating with us. They are managing us. They have been managing us since the day we arrived in galactic space. Every rule they ask us to follow makes us smaller. Every agreement they offer takes something from us, and they do it very nicely, very formally, with great ceremony and old words, but it is still taking." She looked at the window, at the passing stars. "So I have decided something. I am going to walk into that chamber, and I am going to show them something they have never seen from any species. And after that, things will be different." "Different how?" Riku asked. Lena turned back to him. For the first time in a long time, there was something sharp in her eyes. Something that was not tired at all. "They will never try to manage us again," she said. The ship flew on through the dark. The council chamber grew larger in the window, its ring turning slowly, catching starlight. And inside it, 12 of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy were waiting. They did not know what was coming. Nobody did. The council chamber smelled like old stone and something electric, like the air before a storm. Lena walked in first, followed by Riku and Chen. She wore a simple dark jacket, and carried nothing in her hands. She had left her tablet on the ship. She had left her notes, too. She did not need them anymore. The chamber was enormous. It was circular, with high curved walls that rose up into shadow. Around the outer ring sat the representatives of the 12 council species, each in their own section, each behind their own kind of barrier or support structure. The Varathi floated in a slow cloud of colored gas. The solemn ones sat in enormous stone chairs that had been built into the floor, their great bodies still, their deep eyes watching everything. The Zyrath sat in a cluster of 12, their silver bodies arranged in a perfect shape, each one mirroring the posture of the others. At the center of the room was a single round platform. That was where Lena walked. She stepped up onto it and stood in the middle, under the bright light that came from somewhere high above. She did not look around nervously. She stood still and looked forward, at the Zyrath. The Zyrath High Speaker rose. It was tall and thin, with 4 arms, and a head like a pale stone sculpture. When it spoke, its voice came out in smooth, rolling tones, translated instantly by the room's systems. "Ambassador Vasquez of the human delegation," it said. "The Council thanks you for your prompt attendance. We are here today to finalize the Zyrath Trade Border Agreement. The Council urges the human delegation to consider carefully the benefits of cooperation and the consequences of continued resistance." Lena said nothing. The High Speaker waited. This was protocol. The arriving species was supposed to bow their head and say something formal about being grateful for the Council's time. Lena said nothing. A low vibration moved through the chamber. The solemn ones had noticed. They always noticed everything first. The High Speaker tried again. "Ambassador, the Council awaits your formal greeting." Her voice was calm and clear. The translation system carried it perfectly around the room. "I am choosing not to give one." The silence that followed was unlike anything Lena had ever heard in that chamber before. It was not the silence of thoughtful creatures. It was the silence of shocked ones. One of the smaller council members, a Dravari, moved its many small legs in agitation. The Varathi cloud shifted color rapidly, flashing orange and red. The Zyrath cluster turned their heads to look at each other. The High Speaker's voice came out very controlled. "Ambassador, this is a serious breach of Council protocol. You are required by the Galactic Accord of—" "I know what the Accord says," Lena said. She started walking. She did not walk toward the High Speaker. She walked around the edge of her platform, slowly, and she looked at each section of the chamber as she did. "I have read every version of the Galactic Accord. I have read the original text, the first revision, the third revision, The emergency revision that was passed after the Krell incident, and the quiet little addition that was slipped in 40 years ago that allows the Council to block trade routes of non-member species without formal vote. She stopped walking and turned back to the Zyrath. That last one, that quiet little addition, that is the one you have been using on us, on humans. The High Speaker straightened. The addendum you refer to is a legal instrument of galactic governance, accepted by all member species. Accepted by species who were told they had to accept it if they wanted membership, Lena said. And used against species who have not yet been offered membership, which means they cannot vote against it, which means they cannot change it, which means they are trapped. That is not governance. That is a trap with very nice furniture. More movement around the room. The Dravari were clicking loudly now. Even the solemn ones had begun to move, their great heads turning slowly toward the humans standing on the platform. Riku, watching from the side, felt his heart beating fast. He had served in 3 conflicts. He had seen things that would follow a person forever. But he had never felt fear quite like this. Because Lena was doing something that no species had ever done in the history of the Galactic Council. She was not asking. She was not appealing. She was not negotiating. She was telling. Ambassador, the High Speaker said, and now there was something cold in its voice. You would do well to remember where you are standing. You are standing in the council chamber, before the full assembly of 12 civilizations that predate your species' first written language. You will treat this body with the respect it is owed. Or the consequences. What consequences? Lena asked. The High Speaker paused. The same ones you always threaten us with, she continued. Block our routes, delay our supplies, exclude us from commerce rings. You have done all of those things already. You have done them over and over, and every time you do, we recover. We build a new route, or we find a new supplier, or we simply go without. Humans are very good at going without. We have been doing it our entire history. She took one step forward, toward the Zyrath side of the chamber. But here is what I have come to tell you today. The going without is over. Not because we have won something, not because we are strong enough to beat you in a fight, but because I have something in my hand that none of you have seen before, and when I show it to you, everything in this room is going to change. Chen, standing beside Riku, leaned close to him, and whispered, Does she actually have something? Riku kept his eyes on Lena. I think we are about to find out. Lena reached into the inside pocket of her jacket. She took out a small flat card. It was white, and it had numbers printed on it, and nothing else. She held it up so the whole chamber could see it. What is that? Lena said. This is the reason you will never threaten the human delegation again. The white card caught the light. It was small, it was flat. It had a series of numbers printed on it in clean black type, and nothing else. No emblem, no seal, no name, just numbers. And yet every eye in the chamber was fixed on it, because Ambassador Lena Vasquez was holding it up like it meant something enormous. The Zyrath High Speaker leaned forward slightly. You are holding a piece of card, it said. I am, Lena agreed. And this is meant to frighten us? No, Lena said. It is meant to inform you. She lowered the card and held it flat in her open palm. She spoke clearly, without hurry, in the way she had once heard a very old woman speak at a village meeting on Earth, certain of every word, comfortable with silence between them. 3 years ago, humans discovered something in the outer spiral, a dead system, no star, no light, no heat, just rock and ice, and a particular kind of radiation that we had never recorded before. Our scientists thought it was interesting. They set up a research post. They studied it for 14 months. She paused. The chamber was completely quiet now. What they found was not what they expected. Under the ice of one of the larger bodies, there was a structure, not natural, not random, built. They brought in more people. They worked carefully. After 8 more months, they understood what they had found. The Varathi cloud had gone almost completely white. The Dravari had stopped moving. Even the solemn ones seemed to be holding their breath, though they did not breathe in any way a human would recognize. What they had found, Lena continued, was a power source, An old one, older than any technology currently known to any species in this chamber. It runs on a process that our physicists have called, for now, deep fold resonance. The short version is this: it generates unlimited energy from the fabric of space itself. No fuel, no waste, no shutdown. It simply runs, and it will run until the universe ends. She closed her fingers around the card and lowered her hand. The numbers on this card are the coordinates of that system, and this card is one of 212 copies that currently exist. Those copies are held by 212 different humans, on 212 different worlds and stations, in sealed containers that require a living human to open. If anything happens to the human delegation, or to human interests as a whole, those containers open automatically, and every species in this galaxy gets the coordinates for free. For 3 full seconds, nothing happened. Then the chamber broke open. The Zyrath cluster was on their feet, all 12 of them, their silver bodies rigid, their voices rising in their own language before the translation system could keep up. The Dravari were clicking so fast, it sounded like rain on metal. The Varathi clouds spun into deep, churning red and orange, and from the solemn ones came the first sound Lena had ever heard them make, a low, grinding vibration that moved up through the floor and into her bones. The high speaker slammed its 2 upper arms down on the barrier in front of it. "You cannot do this. This is a threat against the stability of the galactic order. The Council will not." "I am not making a threat," Lena said. Her voice cut through the noise without being raised. That was the strange thing. She did not shout, but somehow she was heard. "A threat is when you say, 'Do what I want,' or something bad will happen. I am not saying that. I am describing reality. The containers exist. The system is real. The 212 people are real. This is not a negotiating position. This is a fact." Riku had stopped breathing. He became aware of this, and made himself breathe again. He watched the room and watched Lena, and he understood, standing there, that he was watching something that would be studied for a very long time. Chen had opened her tablet. Her hands were shaking slightly. She was recording everything. The high speaker tried a different approach. Its voice dropped back to its normal smooth tone, but there was something underneath it now that had not been there before. Something careful. "Ambassador Vasquez, what is it that you actually want?" "I want 3 things," Lena said. "First, full and permanent access to all spiral trade routes, with no fees for all human vessels. Second, immediate membership in the Inner Commerce Ring with the same rights as any founding species. Third, the removal of the Quiet Addendum from the Galactic Accord, the one that lets the Council act against non-member species without a vote." "And if we agree to these things?" the High Speaker asked. "Then the coordinates stay sealed," Lena said. "This technology stays ours. We do not share it, but we do not release it either. The discovery sits quietly, belonging to humanity, and no one has to worry about what happens when every species in the galaxy has access to unlimited free energy, and no one needs to trade with anyone anymore." The High Speaker understood. The whole chamber understood. Because that was the real thing in the room, not the technology itself, but what it would mean if it was released. Every economy in the galaxy ran on resource scarcity in some form. Every treaty, every trade agreement, every alliance was built on the fact that some species had things that other species needed. If everyone had limitless free energy, every single one of those structures fell apart. Wars would start. Old grievances would reignite. Civilizations that had been stable for centuries would shake. Lena had not threatened to destroy the Council. She had threatened to make them irrelevant. The High Speaker sat back down slowly. Around the chamber, the noise was fading. The species were thinking now, not reacting. And thinking for creatures this old and this careful was far more dangerous. "We will need to discuss this," the High Speaker said finally. "Of course," Lena said. She put the card back in her pocket. "Take all the time you need." The Council asked for 2 days. Lena gave them 2 days. She and Riku and Chen went back to their ship and stayed there, docked at the outer port of the chamber. They ate simple food and slept in small bunks and did not talk very much. There was not much to say. The thing had been done. Now, they waited. On the morning of the second day, Riku made coffee and brought a cup to Lena. She was sitting at the small table near the window, looking out at the chamber's ring as it slowly turned. She took the cup without looking at him. "Do you think they will agree?" he asked. "I don't know," she said. "But you made the plan anyway." "Yes." He sat down across from her. "What happens if they say no? What happens if they call your bluff?" Lena looked at him then. "It is not a bluff." He was quiet for a moment. "The containers are real." "Yes." "And the people holding them." "Yes." "And the technology." "Every word of what I said in that chamber is true," Lena said. She looked back out the window. "I do not bluff. I have never bluffed in my life. It is the one thing I am actually proud of." Riku wrapped his hands around his cup. Outside, a small shuttle moved between the chamber's outer ports, carrying some delegate somewhere. The universe continued to operate, quietly, while the 12 oldest civilizations in it sat behind closed doors and tried to decide what to do about one human woman and a white card. Chen came in from the back of the ship. She had been on a call. "I have been talking to Earth," she said. She sat down and put her tablet on the table. "The Secretary General sends her formal support. Also, unofficially, she wants to know if you have lost your mind." Lena smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. "Tell her probably." Chen did not smile. "Lena, if this does not work, if they refuse and call the release of the coordinates an act of aggression against galactic order, which is a thing they can do under the Accord, then we could be looking at a formal blockade. Not just the trade routes, the actual human systems. Every inhabited world we have." "I know," Lena said. 214 colony worlds, 11 billion people. "I know, May." Chen was quiet. Then, "Okay, I just wanted to make sure you know." "I know everything," Lena said. "I have known everything for 6 months. I have been carrying every one of those 11 billion people in my head every day while I thought about this. And I decided that the cost of doing nothing was higher. Because if we sign their agreement, if we accept their terms this time, there is always a next time. And the next time the terms will be worse. And the time after that, worse still. And someday, there will be a generation of humans who have never known what it is like to not need permission from someone else to travel in their own galaxy." She set her coffee down. "I will not be the person who lets that happen." The summons came that afternoon. Short and formal. The council was ready to deliver its decision. They walked back into the chamber. It felt different this time. The noise was gone. The agitation Lena had seen in every species 2 days ago had settled into something harder to read. She stood on the central platform again and waited. The high speaker stood. It looked at her for a long moment before it spoke. "The council has deliberated at length," it said. "We have considered the human delegation's 3 conditions. We have considered the nature of the discovery you have described. We have also taken steps to independently verify the existence of the technology in question. Our people have confirmed it is real." Lena did not react. "The council is not unaware of the position this places us in," the high speaker continued. "Nor are we unaware of the fact that the human delegation has shown, today, a level of strategic thinking that this body has not encountered from a non-member species in recorded history." Something shifted in its tone. It was not quite respect, but it was something in that direction. "We have discussed whether the proper response is to resist or to accommodate." The debate was significant. It paused again. "The council accepts all 3 conditions." The sound that went around the chamber was not celebratory. It was the sound of very old, very proud creatures accepting something they had not expected to accept. It was a hard sound, but it was real. Chen grabbed Riku's arm without thinking. He let her. The high speaker was not finished. "There is one condition from the council's side. The human delegation will agree to share the location of the technology with the council. Not its function, not its mechanism, only its location, as a gesture of mutual trust." Lena looked at the high speaker for a long moment. "No," she said. The chamber went still again. "You've agreed to our terms," Lena said. "That agreement will be written down and formally signed today. Once it is signed and verified, the location of the technology is a matter for humanity, not for the Council. That is what trust looks like when one side has spent 2 years blocking medicine ships. The High Speaker held her gaze for a long time. Then it nodded its great pale head. Very well, it said. The signing took 4 hours. There were forms and counter-signatures and procedural readings, as there always were when the Galactic Council made a formal agreement. Every species had its own way of marking the moment. The Xyrath used a pressed seal of silver liquid that hardened into a permanent disk. The Varathi left a color impression on the document, a living signature that would fade and reform every 10 years for as long as the agreement stood. The solemn ones pressed the tips of 2 great fingers to the page and left marks that looked like nothing so much as 2 quiet mountains. Lena signed with a pen, a simple blue pen she had brought from Earth. She signed her full name in the looping handwriting her mother had taught her when she was 7 years old. When it was done, she picked up the document and held it. It was surprisingly light. Riku was at her shoulder. "How do you feel?" he asked quietly. Lena thought about this honestly. "Like I need to sleep for about a month," she said. He laughed. It was the first time either of them had laughed in 3 days. Chen was already on a call to Earth, speaking in fast, excited sentences, her usual calm completely gone. Around the edges of the chamber, council staff and delegates were speaking in their own languages, in quiet groups, their movements careful and watchful. The room had not relaxed. It probably would not relax for a long time. As Lena stepped down from the signing platform, the Xyrath High Speaker was waiting. This surprised her. In her experience, the High Speaker did not wait for anyone. Species came to it. It stood at the base of the steps. When she reached the floor, they were almost at eye level, which was unusual. The High Speaker was a full head taller than her in normal standing. It had lowered itself slightly. She did not know if it was conscious or not. "A question," it said. Its voice was quieter than it had been in session, personal, almost. "You can ask," Lena said, the deep fold power source. It looked at her carefully with its pale, flat eyes. "Did you always intend to use it this way, as a tool of negotiation?" Lena considered the question seriously. "No," she said. "When we found it, I thought about it for a long time. I thought about what it would mean to share it freely. And then I thought about what this council had done to us, over and over. I thought about the medicine ships, and I thought, there are 2 ways to use this thing. I can give it away and watch everything fall apart. Or I can hold it and use the holding of it to make things right." "And when things are right?" the High Speaker asked. "When the human worlds are stable and secure and fully part of galactic society? What happens to the technology then?" Lena looked at it for a long time. "Then we share it," she said. "Freely. No conditions. Because that is what a species that is actually secure and actually trusted does. It gives things away. It does not need to hold on to power, because it already has something better than power." "And what is that?" "A place at the table," she said. "A real one, where no one is managing anyone." The High Speaker regarded her with those flat, pale eyes. Then it said something she had not expected. "I think," it said slowly, "that humans are going to be very interesting members of this council." It walked away before she could answer. On the ship, heading home, Lena finally let herself be still. She sat in her bunk with the lights low and the stars moving past the window. Riku had gone to sleep 2 hours ago. Chen was still up, writing reports that would need to be ready before they docked. But Lena sat quietly, and she let herself feel the weight of what had happened settle around her, like something finally set down after a long carry. She thought about the colony worlds. She thought about the traders who would now be able to fly free routes without paying fees they could not afford. She thought about the children on the outer settlements who would get their medicines on time. She thought about the generation of humans who would grow up knowing that their galaxy was not owned by anyone, that the space above their heads was theirs too. She thought about the white card in her jacket pocket. 212 containers, still sealed, held by 212 people on 212 worlds. They would stay sealed. The agreement was signed. The conditions were met. There was no need for the release. The threat had worked precisely because it was not a threat. It was a promise, backed by something real, made by people who meant what they said. That was the thing about humans, she thought. The thing the Council had not understood until today. Not the technology, not the discovery. Those were just tools. The real thing was simpler. Humans were stubborn. Humans were patient in a different way than the Council understood patience. They did not wait calmly. They waited while working, while building, while finding new routes around every wall that was put in front of them. And when they finally stopped going around the wall and decided to walk through it instead, they did it completely. Not halfway, all the way. Lena leaned her head back against the wall of the bunk and closed her eyes. Somewhere out in the dark of the outer spiral, in a dead system with no star and no light, something old and enormous sat under the ice and hummed quietly. It had been running for longer than any living creature in the galaxy could remember. It would keep running long after all of them were gone. But for now, tonight, it was enough. It was more than enough. Ambassador Lena Vasquez fell asleep to the sound of the ship moving through the stars.